Happy Halloween, everyone! Ninjago is about to turn 15. It's an adolescent. It has gone through many phases and many unique changes that have shaped it into the show that it is today. Having been around for so long, the show has reached a point where old ideas start to get rehashed and thus revamped. In some cases, it works out pretty great, and in other cases, it might miss the mark. For example, the original run of Ninjago had a season centered all around a tournament. Season 4, The Tournament of Elements, a fan favorite. The sequel show, which has been running for about 3 years now, also did a season centered around a tournament, which was Season 2, Part 2. I personally like Dragon's Rising's execution of the tournament just a little bit better, but I think the general consensus in the fandom is that Season 4 has a better tournament. A case of the original enactment of a certain idea being a bit better than the second go-round. Now, what am I getting at with this? Well, you probably know if you read the title of this video, but what I'm getting at is this. It's Halloween, and there are 2 seasons of Ninjago that have a very spooky and Halloween vibe. There's Season 3, Part 2 of Dragon's Rising, which just came out and introduced a villain very similar to one that we all know and love, Moro, from Season 5 of Possession. These seasons are more similar than we may think, and since they're both seasons centered around ghosts, I thought it would be cool to do a little battle of the seasons for Halloween. We're going to figure out which ghost season is better, Season 5, Possession, or Season 3, Part 2 of Dragon's Rising. We're going to compare a few certain aspects of the seasons and determine which season does this aspect better. At the end of all of the categories, we'll figure out which season stands out on top. And of course, this is all just a matter of opinion, my opinion, but I think it's going to be a fun little exercise to compare the seasons and see which season does which thing better. It's going to be fun. So how are we going to compare? What categories did I devise to compare these 2 seasons? Well, I put together about 5 categories, and we're going to do this with a point system. First, we'll start by comparing the main antagonists of each season, which will equal 1 point. Then we'll compare the villain armies of each season, which will also be 1 point. I think you know where I'm going with this, but next we're going to compare the plot of the season and the overall resolution of the conflict, then the heroes of the season and their character development, and then next we're going to look at the season structure and overall enjoyment. Each category will be worth 1 point, like I mentioned, and there will be a total of 5 points, 5 categories to go through, and whoever has the most points wins. Now that the point system has been established, let's start this battle. We'll begin by comparing the main antagonists of each season, starting with Season 5, Possession. The main antagonists of Season 5 are Moro and the Preeminent. Let's start with the one we all care about, Moro. Moro is an amazing main antagonist. Teased at the end of Season 4, Moro comes into the season directly tied to the main plot, setting a creepy vibe with the mystery built around him in the first episode, his aesthetic and the eeriness of his score. Moro is a full-fledged character with a backstory, a motive, and a personality far deeper than just his aesthetic. He gains significant character development, and the nature of his character directly clashes with multiple of our main characters, such as Kai and Master Wu. The story of this season relies on the character of Moro. He drives the plot forward. We can't have this season without Moro. The season establishes Moro as a huge threat, a villain that is hard for the ninja to defeat as easily as they could other villains. In the first episode, the ninja have to escape on the Destiny's Bounty as he is so powerful, and even then, Moro continues to chase after them in the next episode. Even by the 8th episode of this season, Grave Danger, the ninja are still hesitant to fight him, showing that he is still a prominent threat this far into the season. They do prove on a few occasions, however, that Moro is not completely invincible and that the ninja do have a fighting chance against him, making the season still enjoyable and worth watching, because if they had no chance, you wouldn't want to watch the season, would you? For example, when they get a leg up by getting to the Cloud Kingdom before him, and when Nia summons water outside the Samurai X cave. These moments are great at establishing Moro as a very tough villain, but not completely unbeatable. Moro is also established as quite a clever villain, showing that he learned from his reckless ways as a young child. He insists that the other ghosts keep their guard up in Curse World Part 1, admitting that he knows he's not invincible. And he makes smart moves, such as blackmailing Ronin to throw the ninja off the trail of the Realm Crystal. Moro also gets an amazing arc. We get to see him in this position of having tried so hard to be the Green Ninja and feeling like he has to not let down his new leader, the Preeminent, We get to see him so determined to help the preeminent curse Ninjago that he gets to a point at the end of the season where it's all too much and he realizes how far he has gone. Right at the end, when the preeminent is drowning in the sea, we still see Moro trying to escape, determined not to go down with the creature. It's not until Master Wu tries to help Moro that he realizes there is no way for his former master to save him. He accepts that all the things he has done has led to this moment and to his fate. After all, he's a ghost who was sent to the curse realm. His fate is to go back there. His fate is to go down with the preeminent. He knows nothing Master Wu does would be able to change that. The scene is heartbreaking, but it feels gratifying to finally see Moro realize what he did wrong, but still accept his fate. It shows how he's matured from just wanting to be the Green Ninja, and shows that he can realize that Master Wu was trying to help him all those years. Now for our other main antagonist, the preeminent. Man, is she a step down or what? The preeminent is the living embodiment of the curse realm, and they make a big deal out of the fact that the preeminent is a girl for some reason. Okay. Yes, the preeminent is a big and scary creature, but other than that, she is so boring. We don't know anything about her other than she is the curse realm somehow, so she's like a setting, but she's also a being. Okay? She is more of a setting than a character, really. The thing about the preeminent, though, is that she doesn't really have to have character, but if she did, it would have made the season a bit more interesting. Yes, she's a big threat, but she doesn't tie into any character arcs or move the plot forward because of how she ties into the story or anything. She just attacks sticks and then just gets drowned in the ocean by Nia. So, we have one incredible antagonist in Moro and one subpar antagonist in the preeminent. But now let's look at the main antagonist of Dragon's Rising Season 3, Part 2. This season technically has 7 main antagonists, which is kind of nuts to say out loud, but we're going to look at them as 3 separate entities. First we have Thunderfang, then the Forbidden Five, and finally, Roz. Thunderfang is the case of an extremely hyped up antagonist that ultimately doesn't end up doing much. He really barely does anything this season, despite being the main villain the ninja worked towards defeating. And the villain the final battle of the season mainly revolves around. Thunderfang isn't used to his full potential at all. Thunderfang has a really cool backstory that is established in Season 3 Part 1, but that was Season 3 Part 1. In Season 3 Part 2, the only times we see Thunderfang, he's either saying generic evil guy dialogue that sounds a lot like his dialogue from Season 3 Part 1, or he's just powering up with souls, which admittedly is really cool. Season 3 Part 2 doesn't add anything new to his character, and he barely has a character to begin with. Part 1 has the advantage of introducing us to this character, but Part 2 doesn't follow up on it in any meaningful way. Despite being a ghost, he doesn't really bring anything substantial to the season. They don't even explain why him being a ghost now makes him more dangerous and hard to beat. Like, why would he being departed change anything from how he was before? Like, what? Yes, he gathers the souls, we know that, but that's with the help of the Forbidden Five. He doesn't do that solely on his own, and also, characters throughout the season didn't know that he was doing that, and they still expressed fear of him being a ghost. So, what? How did they... Like, why does him being a ghost change anything? Why do they not know? Like, everything is revealed way too late. Despite having a bunch of aura, Thunderfang fails to deliver on the main antagonist experience. He doesn't have a significant impact on the overarching story of the season. The only part that would be changed if you switched Thunderfang with any other character would be the final battle, as it was established that the Archdragon of Focus has to face off against Thunderfang. Other than that, you could switch Thunderfang with the Preeminent and it would be exactly the same story. He doesn't stand out in a significant way like Moro does. Okay, so that was Thunderfang. Underwhelming, to say the least. But what about the Forbidden Five? Well, I hate to say it, but they're not that much better. The Forbidden Five are one of the greatest letdowns that has ever come from Ninjago. And that's not an exaggeration. The Forbidden Five were extremely hyped up over the entirety of Dragon's Rising Season 2, and the whole fandom was so ready for them to be the most badass villains Ninjago's ever seen. But then Season 3 Part 1 rolled around and they were killed off by Thunderfang after a less than expected showing throughout the season. Although this move did make Thunderfang seem even more epic, it ultimately ended up absolutely killing the potential of the Forbidden Five. and ultimately Thunderfang as well, as they didn't do anything good with him in Part 2. The Forbidden Five return in Season 3 Part 2 as ghosts, and they're going around the merged lands collecting souls for Thunderfang. They never make it clear whether Thunderfang is controlling them or something, because I'm not sure if they actually want to be helping him anymore. But yeah, their place in this season is so vague you can't even make out the picture. I'm pretty sure on the wiki they say that they're being involuntarily controlled, so I guess they say that on the wiki, but they don't really make it clear in the show. I wish they would. There's not much to say about the Forbidden Five, because their role this season is literally just this. Show up, play some instruments, collect souls, go back to Thunderfang, fight some ninjas. The Forbidden Five don't even speak at all this season, and that makes them so much more boring. They're just vessels. They could be replaced with literally any character, and nothing in the story would change. Yes, their ghost aesthetic is cool, but pretty much all they do is shatter, spin some ninja, and play some creepy music, and they're just not that interesting at all. They could have been so much more interesting this season if they just let them talk. Do they not want to pay the voice actors or something? I don't get why they weren't speaking at all. Is it just because they're being controlled they can't speak? Like, what? Also, if it's supposed to be a ghosty reason, that doesn't make much sense, because Moro and the other ghosts in possession could talk, and Moro showed up in Season 3 Part 1 and he was talking, and Thunderfang talked, so why not them? They never explain. I really don't care for this aspect of their characters this season. I don't get why they don't talk, and if there was a good reason, they should have explained it in the show. So the Forbidden Five were an even bigger disappointment than Thunderfang. But we still have one more main antagonist to discuss, and that is our main man, Roz. Roz has been Dragon's Rising's overarching villain, and honestly, he is one of the best villains Ninjago's ever had, and he continues to deliver in Season 3 Part 2. Like, honestly, we all have to just admit this guy is the GOAT. Roz has a great, intriguing, compelling personality, and his role in this season, tricking Eren and Sora, is just so great and so well done. It's just fascinating how they structure everything with them. It's just great. He's just such a cool villain, and he is able to hold his own even without his cronies Cinder and Jordana. He has so many intense and cool scenes in this season, and he ends the season having captured Master Wu and getting a major upper hand over the ninja. I'm so excited to see where Roz goes from here, and I'm very satisfied with his role in this season. Okay, so now it's time to pick the winner. I think you might be able to tell. Overall, both seasons have really cool main antagonists, but I definitely think the major disappointments that come from Thunderfang and the Forbidden Five give Possession the advantage here. Moro is such a cool antagonist, and he is integrated into the season so well that it makes up for most of the preeminent downfalls. So the first point is gonna go to Possession. I made it an I by accident. So we've decided that Moro is a better main antagonist, but how does his army stack up against Thunderfang? Let's compare the villain armies of each season, starting with Season 5. The original Ghost Army in Ninjago consisted of a few secondary characters and then some unnamed ghosts that show up in the two-part finale. The concept of Moro using the allied armor to summon them to Ninjago before finding the realm crystal is really cool. The ghosts have a creepy aesthetic and vibe, and they're just really cool villains. They're formidable villains for the ninja to face. The ninja's first run-in with a ghost other than Moro is such a great scene. The ninja are extremely confused fighting the ghost and are scrambling for a way to defeat it. They stumble on the solution by accident, which is absolutely hilarious, and the whole scene just shows how unprepared they are for this kind of villain and how much of a threat these villains are. The ghost in this scene is also pretty scary, honestly. If I was a 6-year-old watching this scene, I would definitely be freaked out. Anyway, as for the secondary character ghosts, they have cool character concepts but aren't really developed at all. Gultar is your stereotypical scatterbrain character, Soul Archer is just an archer guy, Bancha can take over people's minds, etc. Yes, Soul Archer has a connection to Ronin, which is interesting, but other than that, the characters are just archetypes for Moro to use to his advantage. Or disadvantage in the case of Gultar. The ghosts also kind of get on my nerves, especially in episode Peekaboo. Their voices can be pretty annoying at times, especially when they have a lot of dialogue. So these ghosts are creepy and are a good challenge for the ninja to face. Now, how about the villain army in Season 3 Part 2? I'm going to be honest here, I think the Spectral Dragonians are much scarier than the ghosts from Season 5. dude, they are creepy. The way they hollow out people is so much scarier than how ghosts like Banshee control people. Like in the episode Human Resources, it looks like the Dragonians are choking them to hollow them. Like, it's so scary. Like, this was one of the things that first stood out to me when I watched the season the first time, was how creepy they are, and it just caught me off guard, and it was just so terrific that I was like, oh my gosh, how do they make it this good? Anyway, it's a creepy music the Forbidden Five play, the eerie smoke, and just the hollow look of them is so chilling. It all just works so well. I think it has a lot to do with editing too. The sounds, the cuts they use, just everything they do with the direction when these guys are on screen is so well done and sets such a frightening tone. I also love how you can't see them at first until using spectral blades. The idea of an invisible enemy hollowing people out is so freaking creepy and cool. It's so spooky. I love it. The moment when they hollow Candelaria, you can see that Roz, such a strong and tough character, is freaked out by these guys. Also in episode 6, when one of the citizens from the Land of Lee gets hollowed in Lloyd's arms, it's such an intense moment. It makes the ability of these guys feel so much more intense. Like, it just hits even harder. I don't know how to explain it. It's just so good. The Spectral Dragonians have a big impact over the season that follows our main characters until the finale, and I think they're just very well done. I think I'm going to have to give this one to Season 3 Part 2. The Spectral Dragonians are just so much cooler to me, and as a film student, I just love the way they're portrayed visually and sonically. Even though they don't have characters like the ghosts in Season 5, I feel as a faction, they just interest me much more and stand out more. And we are ultimately comparing armies here, not the characters specifically. So, 1 point for Season 3 Part 2. The next category we're going to look at is the plot of the season / the overall resolution. We're going to take a look at the goals our heroes are working to achieve this season, and also take a look at the way they're able to ultimately win the day at the end of the season. We'll be looking at which setup and resolution is more enticing and makes most sense. Once again, let's start with Season 5. The plot of Season 5 revolves around the ninja having to figure out how to stop Moro and save Lloyd from Moro's possession. To achieve this, they must follow the clues from the first Ninjutsu Master's staff to uncover the location of the Realm Crystal, which is the artifact Moro needs to unleash the preeminent on Ninjago. And on top of this, Nia must train to become the Water Ninja, as they discover water is the only way to defeat a ghost. I think that the plot point of water being the only way to defeat a ghost is really great, as it allows one of our main characters, Nia, to get some long-deserved character development. She plays a central role in the plot of this season because if she can't learn to harness her power, they really have no chance in defeating Moro and the Preeminent. Through her possessing a power vital to the plot, the audience becomes more invested in Nia's story and wants her to succeed so that she can help the ninja defeat the ghosts. The ninja being able to use arrow blades, weapons mined from aquatic material to defeat the ghosts is really cool, but also seems like a bit of an easy fix when you think about it. You don't really care much about the arrow blades because you want Nia to gain her power and make it stronger so she can help them. The plot point of having to save Lloyd is really compelling and very emotional. After Season 4, Lloyd is in such a vulnerable state, and his scene with Kai in Winds of Change is a big indicator of that. When Lloyd gets possessed by Moro, you immediately feel bad for him and want the ninja to be able to help him like Kai promised he would. Throughout the season, the ninja are absolutely determined to save their friend, and it's so great to watch. They even give up the Realm Crystal in the back half of the season to save his life, which is an amazing moment. As well as having to save their friend, they're tasked with having to save the Green Ninja, which is honestly a big deal. It's an incredibly interesting plot point, and it's emotional to watch the ninja do everything they can to save Lloyd. I also like how they view it more as saving their friend over just saving the Green Ninja, while the audience views it in both ways. As we previously went over, I think Moro is an incredibly formidable opponent for the ninja. His cleverness leads to many interesting plot points throughout the story, like Moro using Ronin to throw the ninja off the trail, and he is also just an incredibly enticing villain to watch. The moment with him threatening Lloyd in the cave being a substantial moment that really grabs your attention. And that moment also has some great character moments for every character. The main quest for the season revolves around the ninja following the clues from the first Ninjutsu Master staff to locate the Realm Crystal. I think this plot is really intriguing and builds upon the lore in a really cool way. For example, we get more information on the first ninjutsu master, the most mysterious character in the show. All of the clues are very interesting. Having to learn airjitsu is such a cool plot, as adding a new fighting skill to the ninja's arsenal is so awesome. The Sword of Sanctuary has a fascinating power set unlike any weapon we have seen before, and it plays a very interesting role in the unplaying of the season. And the last clue being the first ninjutsu master's tomb is really creepy and so compelling. Like, that was really cool for them to do, especially in a kid show. Like, let's go explore tomb, guys, and see the skeleton of the first ninjutsu master. I also love how the tomb and the temple where the ninja go to learn airjitsu share so many parallels, almost like the temple was preparation for the tomb. Each setting gives a ninja tests that require them to rely on and trust each other, and I love seeing how the ninjas' teamwork and dynamics change from being freaked out and confused in the temple to more reliant on each other in the tomb and more trusting. The situations being so similar and yet different helps us really see how much the team has grown over the season. I think it contributes to a really interesting plot while also contributing to some great character moments and development as a team for the ninjas. All of these clues leading to the unearthing of the realm crystal are so cool. At this point in Ninjago's history, we've seen some powerful items, but nothing quite like the realm crystal. It can travel realms. It is such a powerful item for a villain like Moro to possess, and a big deal for the ninja to get their hands on it. The realm crystal is used for an incredibly cool fight across the realms between Moro and Roy, and overall, it's such a cool thing for the ninja and Moro to be after. The audience is always interested in knowing who is ultimately going to end up in possession of the realm crystal. The overall resolution of the plot is Nia ultimately unlocking her true potential and drowning the preeminent in the sea, which I think is a great moment and a great way for the season to be wrapped up, because we've seen Nia grow over the season and we want her to succeed and have this big moment. So that's really great, and I love how they did that. And I also think having Roy give up being the one to save the day is great, and him fighting Moro and then just kind of staying away for a while until Nia handles the situation is really good. So yeah, so that's a pretty good case for season 5. All of the moving pieces end up working to make an extremely compelling plot for the season. But how does season 3 part 2's plot stack up? Well, let's take a look at it. So the main plot of this season is stopping the spectral dragonians from hauling people. Thunderfang is sending the Forbidden Five and the Spectral Dragonians to collect souls to add to the healing elixir in the Spectral Lands to give him more power to overtake the Source Dragons. So the ninja's main goal this season is to stop Thunderfang from hauling people and just stop him overall. I think it's an interesting enough plot. Hauling out people sets really compelling stakes. It's creepy and it puts characters we care about at considerable risk. Overall though, I find the whole part of Thunderfang a bit underwhelming, as they don't really explain why the healing elixir being enhanced with souls really changes anything. Why does it give him more power? I don't get it, but maybe they did explain it in the show and I missed it, but I don't think so, because I've rewatched this season a few times now. I do think that prismatic steel not working to defeat the Spectral Dragonians brings an added level of difficulty for our heroes, but then ultimately the reveal blades are created a few episodes later, which sort of feels like a bit of a quick fix. Maybe every weapon just feels like a quick fix to me, but I don't know. You guys tell me what you think in the comments. I feel like it should have taken at least more than one episode to make the reveal blades, as they're essential to defeating the Spectral Dragonians. There's a bit of intensity and build up towards it. It probably would have been a cooler moment when the reveal blades are given to the ninja and they can finally use it to take out the Spectral Dragonians. But yeah, more emphasis on finding a weapon that works would have been cool, and I guess that was sort of the problem with the arrow blades too. The arrow blades just kind of get thrown into the picture. Ronan's like, oh yeah, arrow blades, you didn't know that they used one, did you take them? And then with these ones, it's kind of just like, oh yeah, we're here in Imperium, we can make anything, so I'll just whip up some reveal blades for you. But yeah. The season has so many different plots that it's a bit hard to keep up with all of them. The main plot hardly gets the amount of focus it deserves, and I think the side plots of finding Aaron's parents in the land of Lee, and the side plot of Roz tricking Aaron and Sora to create more dragon icons using the Casket of Bones, that's a really long sentence, are really good. However, plots like Cole trying to figure out the cause of the Screaming Earth just end up feeling underwhelming. The writers just have too many plots to juggle this season, and while some plots really shine, most of the plot points get drowned out. I think the resolution of having to awaken the Archdragon of Focus is a cool plot point, and an awesome way to defeat Thunderfang. I think if Floyd and Aaron weren't helping to control the Archdragon, it probably wouldn't have been as interesting. but it ultimately ends up being pretty cool. Them being able to control the dragon gives them an essential part in the final battle and helps contribute to their character development. The resolution just feels more impactful because they play this essential part in the final battle. I also liked how the ninja had to use a song to awaken the Archdragon because it's definitely something that hasn't been done in the show before, bringing in some new ideas. I think once again in terms of plot, Roz comes out on top. His plot of forging more dragon icons is really cool and interesting, and when he goes to the monastery to find Master Wu, that moment is so cool. Like, oh my gosh, it still hits hard on a rewatch. How we found Master Wu, they don't really explain, but it's still a cool moment when we see that Roz has captured him at the end of the season. I hope they can build on this in a really cool way. I hope it's not this time. Please. But he goes there when the ninja are all spread out and uses it to his advantage at the end of the season, stranding the ninja in different realms. He is a smart villain. He definitely uses the plot to his advantage. They're all off trying to wake the Archdragon, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go do my thing. The Source Dragon stuff low-key confuses me, and I think the ninja losing their powers because of the Source Dragons honestly isn't that interesting, and I think it's not that interesting because this is something that's happened plenty of times in the series before, them losing their powers. We know this. This is like a Ninjago staple, so yeah. Overall, I think the season ends off on a good point in terms of plot, but the entire season is pretty rocky on the plot front. So when we look at the two seasons, I think it's pretty clear that this point is going to go to season 5. Okay, so Possession is 2 points ahead. Can it keep this momentum up, or will season 3 part 2 tie the game? Well, let's see. The next category is heroes/character development. We're going to look at our main characters/heroes for each season and determine which season has the better stories for the characters. Once again, let's start with season 5. As a team, the ninja get a mini arc revolving around which one of them should lead, as Lloyd is being possessed by Moro and they have no leader. I think this arc that they go on is interesting, but also a little strange. This feels like an arc that should have belonged in seasons 1 or 2, not season 5. Like, before Lloyd had become the green ninja that he is today, maybe that would have made this plot a bit more interesting. But I guess it shows how they haven't prepared for a moment like this when Lloyd wouldn't be around, so that makes Moro seem more threatening in that sense, but I don't know, it also just feels a little out of place. I do like a lot of the moments that come from it, however. We get a lot of really hilarious moments between the 4 original ninja, with each of them getting a chance to be the leader and showing why Lloyd usually takes the lead. I love Cole's line in the season finale after Lloyd suggests drowning the preeminent in the sea. That's why he's the leader. It gives a small teamwork arc closure and demonstrates why this kid, Lloyd, has been able to take the leadership role of the ninja team. This season proves why Lloyd is the leader and shows that it's not just because of his role as Green Ninja. And this whole leadership arc just gives really good character moments for all the other ninja. Lloyd's role in this season overall is really great. I think he gets an absolutely magnificent arc, one of the best arcs he's ever gotten in the series. I love so much how Lloyd still manages to get a really good story despite being possessed by Moro for most of the season. He starts the season in a vulnerable emotional state, questioning himself and his path after losing his father. Getting to see Lloyd in this state makes you feel more endeared to him, and especially makes all the bad things that happened to him in this season feel even more heartbreaking. I think the most substantial moment for Lloyd's character this season is in the second part of the season finale. After the Preeminent has dragged Lloyd into the Cursed Realm, he finds his father Garmadon, and he gets to talk to him one more time. It really is the last time he ever got to talk to his real dad before he changes forever in season 8. Realizing that while rewatching the season made me very emotional. Like, the Lloyd and Garmadon relationship is one of the most emotional, personal, special relationships in the show to me. It just means so much to me. Like, and this scene is just so good for Lloyd and for Garmadon. Having been defeated by the Preeminent and Moro, Lloyd doesn't see how he could possibly defeat them and be the Green Ninja again. After expressing his feelings about feeling lost after losing his father to Kai in the first episode of the season, getting to see him confess those same feelings to his father and then have his father help him, it's just such a gratifying moment. Everything really comes full circle for him in terms of that arc. Garmadon helps give Lloyd the courage to go back and fight Moro, helping him to not feel so lost anymore. Getting one last piece of advice from his father and using it to save the day is just such a great full circle moment. Even with the limited screen time he had this season, he gets such great character development through his arc. Once Lloyd is able to get back to Styx, we see that he is able to get the upper hand on Moro, now that he is at full strength and no longer as vulnerable as he was in the rest of the season. Renewed and ready to fight, he faces off against Moro, and ultimately thinks of the idea to drown the Preeminent in the sea in order to save Ninjago. He truly shows why he is the leader, and in the last scene of the season, we even get a tease at Lloyd pursuing the Sensei title. Which I thought was pretty funny that this arc was set up all the way in Season 5, and it's still being pursued in Dragons Rising 10 years later. Anyway, that was Lloyd, A+ for him. Let's move on to the other characters that get substantial focus. Next up we have Kai. I think Kai is also written very well in this season. I think the weight of responsibility he feels for Lloyd is very in character and works very well, especially after his true potential moment revolved around protecting Lloyd, and seeing as he is a big brother, it makes sense for him to want to protect Lloyd like he is his younger sibling. Kai pushing to lead the team makes a lot of sense because it has been established that Kai feels responsible for protecting Lloyd, and he feels guilty for not protecting him from Moro's possession, which is so heart-wrenching. He feels that he needs to be the one to save him and lead the team to saving him because he promised to protect him. Overall, I feel that Kai is very in character and has a great role in this season. It would have been nice to have a scene with him and Lloyd in the season finale, however. They do have a great scene together when they save him in grave danger, but I don't know, a little more closure for Kai's arc would have been nice. I just feel like it deserved another scene or two, between the two of them especially. Cole gets a side arc in this season, my boy Cole. My favorite. So Cole turns into a ghost, which is a great arc in my opinion. If you watch my video on Cole, you can hear more of my detailed thoughts on that arc, but to sum it up, I absolutely love this arc. You could consider me a little biased because this arc is very personal to me, but whatever, I love it so much. Cole gets character development and feeling unneeded and feeling worthless and feeling too different. This is character development that is really nothing we've seen from him so far in the series, and I just love that they build on it and actually explore it at least a little bit in Possession. It's great. Anyway, Master Wu gets a little focus on him dealing with seeing Moro again, and as I mentioned before, their final scene is amazing. I think this being the first instance of learning about Wu's mistakes in the past is really well done. It's written very well, it's great, and Wu gets some good character development. It's not much, but it's a little, and it's good. So there is one more character we must talk about for Season 5. Mia is the last main character to get substantial focus this season, and I think her arc becoming the Water Ninja is incredibly interesting. I think the decision to make Mia the Water Ninja was absolutely the right decision. It's definitely a role that suits her character. I think it only makes sense for Mia to join the team. I do find some aspects to her arc this season sort of strange, however. I've always thought it was strange that she would feel she couldn't be the Water Ninja. While it makes sense for her to want to keep being Samurai X because it was something that came to her, it was something she created for herself, she is also a character who has always expressed wanting what the ninja had, a character who has always had a lot of natural confidence. I don't buy that she would give up as easily as she does in this season. I don't buy that she wouldn't want to be the Water Ninja because she didn't think she could do it. I would buy her not wanting to be the Water Ninja because Wu withheld the fact that she harnessed the power from her for so long. That would have been a really compelling plot to explore, but instead they go down the route of her thinking she can't do it and just giving up because it's easier. I don't think that's anything like her. I do think that she has a lot of great training moments throughout the season, and the scene where she summons Rain for the first time is really great. Despite the flaws in this arc, I do find her true potential moment in the season finale to be pretty gratifying. She ultimately settles into her role as the Water Ninja, making the final play to defeat the Preeminent. While I feel some parts of this arc could have been freshened up to better fit her character, I feel like for the most part, it is pretty good. I think this season is really great at giving each of our main heroes good character moments that really showcase different aspects of their personality. For example, we get to see Kai's goofiness and his overprotectiveness, and we get to see Jay's overconfidence in his leadership abilities and his humor at full swing. Overall, Season 5 does pretty great at showcasing our heroes and giving many of our main characters great development. Now let's look at how Season 3 Part 2 treats our main characters. Now, Dragons Rising has a lot of main characters to juggle, so some get a lot of focus and some don't get so much. First of all, let's start with the elephant in the room. Zane gets completely cut from the season. He and Pixel leave to explore the merged lands of the Hollow Ones, and aren't seen for the rest of the season. And that's pretty unfortunate. I'd like to see more of them, I'd like to see some good things with them, but I guess this season just wasn't the one for it. But if they could have incorporated them somehow, it would have been nice to see an arc for the full ninja team, is what I'm saying. Season 5 was able to do it, so how about our newest ninja, Frack? Well, Frack has some great scenes interacting with Sora and Wildfire, cementing him as one of our new comic relief characters. He also has some great moments as Kai and Cole teach him at the monastery and in the Land of Lost Things, and he also helps Cole uncover the mystery of the Screaming Earth. So, Frack's around. They don't write him horribly, so that's a win, but they don't really give him anything outstanding. So, he's still funny, he's still pretty good, so 2 thumbs up for Frack. Now, Cole and Kai. Kai's main role this season is pretty much teaching Frack and supporting Cole's arc. I love Cole's arc. Again, maybe I'm just biased as a Cole fan, but I really think this arc is great. His scene at the beginning of the Vault of Focus, showing him with the Finders, is really great, and establishes how much the Finders mean to him. We have always known that Cole is very protective of the people he cares about, and we get to see that in this scene. As the episode moves along, we get to see Cole's anger and anxiety build over the Finders having been hollowed by Noct. Eventually, he cannot take it anymore and insists on fighting Noct despite not having adequate weapons or any clue on how to defeat the Spectral Dragonians, or the Spectral Forbidden Five for that matter. Kai tries to stop him, but Cole tells him to let him do this. Cole has taken the position of feeling responsible of others from Season 5 Kai. When comparing the 2 seasons directly, we can see that they've switched roles in this sense. Anger is also not an emotion we typically see Cole express, so it feels like a very fresh moment to see from him, to see him blow up at Kai. His emotions are justified in being such a dire situation and feeling responsible for not protecting the Finders like he promised. But his emotions are also hurtful to Kai, who is his friend, who is his teammate. I find the line when Cole says, "You're not my future, Kai," so interesting. After the merge, the ninjas spent so much time apart, falling back into rhythm as a team after so many years and after so much has changed but not being with each other for those changes. Cole probably still views them all as on the same level. He's not going to want to take any instruction from Kai when he's in such a desperate and guilty headspace, when he's so confused, when he doesn't have the last person to have truly taught him, Master Wu, there to guide him. I think it shows the gap between all of the ninja a bit more in this sense, like after the merge they haven't been completely in sync. It hasn't been exactly the same as it used to be. We saw in Season 5 that they learned to trust each other more, but now it just feels like there's too much going on, there's too much difference, there's too much change, that it's just harder for Cole to trust Kai in this sense, as he probably would have back then. Also, the Finders were the only people he was with for such a long time. Of course he's gonna feel like he needs to go and rescue them. Like he let them down, like he needs to make this right. Kai cannot stop Cole from following his impulses, and Cole ultimately gets hollowed by Noct. When the rest of the ninja defeat Thunderfang at the end of the season, everyone is unhollowed, including Cole and the Finders. I think it would have been great to see another scene with Cole and Kai talking over things, but we do get a moment in When Doves Cry that I think sort of ties up the loose ends. Kai talks about how he has learned that communication is better than lashing out at enemies, thinking that it will dull any emotions you are feeling. I think it's nice to see that he has learned this over the years, and especially that he can share this lesson to others after seeing it happen to someone he cares about. It's a small moment, but it's a good one. I think it would be nice to see Cole talk about his feelings to Kai and see a moment between them probably would have been better, but overall that moment is a good moment and it's just pretty great overall, their arcs. Ryu also gets some good character development this season, which I was pleasantly surprised with. We get some focus on Rontu teaching Ryu Spinjitzu following up from Season 2, and I really think Bantu and Ryu's relationship is so adorable, and I wish I had my Ryu plush here right now, but he is packed up because I'm moving on Halloween. But, yeah. Anyway, the moment where Ryu finally does Finjitsu is really cool. I love Ryu. I know he doesn't talk but he's still able to convey so much through his character. I just love this little dragon so much. I also love so much when Ryu reunites with Sora, as she did technically leave him, and it's nice to see them acknowledge that he felt bad about being abandoned and see Sora apologize to him. So sweet. I love how they treated him as just a ninja. Like, I love it so much. I am eternal over Ryu. But how about Sora's development? Well, I really like Sora's arc overall. I actually think her arc this season is probably my favorite out of all of our main characters. Except for maybe Cole. After I just talked about it, I was like, yeah, I like Cole's arc. But I do think Sora has less things wrong with her arc, while Cole's doesn't really get the full closure it deserves. I like seeing how she is defying Roz while tagging along with him and Eren, while also doing her best to protect Eren and help him with his goal. I love her confidence when she is sassing Roz, especially since we've seen how much Roz frightens her. She ultimately holds her ground and sticking by Eren's side, but there are moments when she is slightly nudging Eren back in the right direction, hinting about the ninja, really asking him why he thinks Roz can help him find his parents, or get them back, because he thinks they're dead. It's great to see how loyal Sora is and how she still tries to steer Eren back on the right path. I love seeing that this moment she reached in crashing together has really come through, and she's still following through on this loyalty that's core to her character now. I think the moment when she does Finjitsu for the first time in Casket of Bones is really cool, but should have had some more emphasis on it, especially since it was built up so much ever since season 2. Like, it just kind of gets brushed to the side. She's like, yeah, I did it, cool, and then it's not mentioned ever again. She doesn't even tell Lloyd that she did it, which I think is crazy. I love Lloyd and Sora's relationship. I'm eternal over them too. I like how Sora helps Lee through relating his situation to her experience with Eren, and I like the moment when Kai and Sora reunite. The way Kai hesitates when he sees her, but then hugs her wholeheartedly, warms my heart so much. It shows that she is really a part of this new family she's found, no matter what. Sora never wanted to turn her back on these people. She just wanted to stick by her friends, so seeing them still accept her is just so great. It makes me love. I also really love how they address how similar Lloyd and Sora are. She expresses how guilty she feels about not being able to protect the people from being followed in the land of Lee, and it's just such a good moment seeing them bond over this characteristic of feeling responsible for everything. I think their relationship is really special, and I really want to see them dive into their dynamic more, which I guess we won't see for a while, unfortunately, because they're split up right now, but whatever. I really love how similar she is to Lloyd, and I think she could have a great series arc like he had of growing into a role of leadership. I hope they keep things up with Sora, because so far, I really like where her character is going. Let's move on to Wildfire. I also think Wildfire is being set up for a really great leadership arc. I mean, she didn't get the best arc in this season, but they did set the pieces in place for a potentially great arc for her in the future. Egolt says to Wildfire in the HoloLens that she will be a great leader one day, and I think they are planning to expand on that with her, at least I hope they are. She does get a moment of being the leader of the ninja when they visit the City of Temples, which shows that maybe she might end up being the leader of that place someday. I think Wildfire settling into a leadership role is a good route for her character to take, and I like how they set it up in this season. Wildfire also continues to supply great comedic relief this season, and I think she was written very well. Jay and Nia both have pretty great arcs as well. I talked a lot about Jay's arc in Dragon's Rising so far in this video, and I talked about how it was one of the best arcs he's ever gotten, and as of Season 3 Part 2, I still think it is. Jay is characterized very well, having great lines, and his comedic role has been greatly improved upon. I think his role as Rogue is also really well written. He continues to be a jerk, callous, and uninterested in pretty much everything the ninja are doing. I like how they balance the personality aspects of both the Jay Renu and Rogue. I also want to add that I think it's really funny to me that Jay doesn't like Wildfire, because I feel like if he was past him, he would definitely like her. It also helps show the vast difference between who he was and who he is now. As for Nia, her arc mostly revolved around Jay, which kind of sucks. I'd like to see more for her, but it's still a good arc. I love seeing Nia and Jay's relationship in a different way than we've seen it before. We get to see her slowly realizing that maybe there is nothing she can do to get back the Jay that she knew. I think it's great to see her starting to accept that he's changed and starting to accept that they probably won't get back together. I would have loved to see them actually really accept that. It would have been cool if they were actually broken apart for a while, but it's okay. I still like what they did here. The scene where they argue in the Vault of Focus is absolutely great, and I would have loved to see the moment where Jay comes back from her happen later on, but it is a good moment. It's nice to see how confused and hesitant Jay is when she hugs him. At least they give us that. Him coming back for her shows he isn't completely changed from who he used to be. But they never really show how Jay came to the decision to go back for her, which I think would have been much more interesting. He just kind of suddenly changes his mind. It goes from the Vault of Focus scene to him hugging her. So had they built it up over more time and shown his thought process, I think it would have been perfect. But anyway, aside from that, their arc is great. Now for our two big hitters, Lloyd and Aaron. Oh, this is gonna be a doozy. We're going to go over their character development together because their arcs really do go hand in hand. Let's start with the Eagle scene. As Eagle is dying, he tells Lloyd to not let Aaron go down the wrong path. He also says that Aaron has the most potential out of any of the ninja, which is something we've heard a lot throughout Dragon's Rising from different characters, but it hasn't been elaborated further than that base sentence. On one hand, it's hard to believe this statement because they haven't proved why he has the most potential. But on the other hand, the seasons have shown how Aaron has good morals, and he does end up saving the day in both final battles in Season 3, so maybe that's the reasoning, but it doesn't seem really specific to that. Anyway, I think if they want this point to really make sense, they have to put even more emphasis on it, and make it even more clear why he has this potential, because they don't really show why, they just kind of vaguely mention it. You can hear my voice getting worse. It's kind of just brought up every once in a while and never really expanded upon. I love the scene between Lloyd and Mia in this first episode. We get to see Mia encouraging him and really get to see Lloyd express his insecurities over being a master and feeling as though he has failed his students Aaron and Sora and failed in Eagle and Master Ru's eyes. I also love the moment later on when Jay says no master stuff. That was probably such a load off of Lloyd's shoulders, and I love that for him. Overall, I think this whole arc with Lloyd getting Aaron back on the right path isn't that fluid, because it isn't checked back on until the back half of the season. It needed more time to breathe, but it gets forgotten about for a long time. As Aaron is on his journey with Roz, we get to see him feeling torn between Roz and Sora, wanting to follow Roz to get his parents back, but not agreeing with everything Roz does. When Aaron finally realizes how messed up Roz is, it's a great moment. Roz is threatening to kill Sora, and Aaron finally realizes this guy really doesn't care about helping him. And even if he could bring his parents back, it wouldn't be in a way that Aaron wants to be a part of. Aaron protects Sora and accepts that Sora is his real family and that he should be with her. She has the morals that he shares. He wants to be with her. She was loyal to him. Roz doesn't really care about him at all. Aaron reaches this point where he is willing to give up finding his parents to protect her, and it just shows how he has finally come to the same realization that Sora came to in Season 3, Part 1, that they are family and that they should stick together. He meets her where she's at, giving up his family just like she gave up her new family, the ninja, to stick by his side. It's a really great moment, and I love all of this character development they gave him. Now, when Lloyd and Aaron reunite is when their character development starts to get rocky. First of all, there isn't much emphasis on the initial reunion of Lloyd with Aaron and Sora. It just seems like they kind of just moved straight into mission mode, which is unfortunate. There could have been a lot of great room for emotional moments between Lloyd and Aaron when they first reunite, and Lloyd and Sora too. But Aaron's development ends up being all over the place, unfortunately. His arc just doesn't wrap up in a satisfying way. He finds his parents, but then after that, it seems like he just wants to go with them and not be with a ninja at all, which just doesn't make sense, especially after everything that happened with him and Sora, realizing that he still had family in her and in the ninja. Like, in Under the Light of a Mechanical Moon, Aaron and Lloyd start to talk about how he feels like he shouldn't be a ninja, justifying his feelings, but then just morphs into plot talk, which slows down his character development significantly. I think a good character development moment for Aaron is when he admits that he doesn't think that his instincts have been the best lately, which is taking some accountability on his part, which is great for his character. But it's vague, and Lloyd immediately shuts it down. They should have let this moment breathe, let Aaron express his emotions, let Lloyd understand where he's coming from. I don't know if it makes any sense what I'm saying, but they just don't let any of these moments have enough time. And that ultimately just makes everything Eren says just sound like whining, and Lloyd too subsequently. Other reasons why this switch in character to him not wanting to be with the ninja is weird is because earlier in the season he was clearly giving the impression that he missed the ninja, at least in some sense. Wondering what they were up to now, like why would he wonder that if he didn't want to join them again? What? They also haven't built Eren up enough to be so bitter that I would buy him actually wanting to quit the ninja entirely. In Season 3, Part 1, they made him too sympathetic and understanding towards the ninja. They didn't give any substantial impression that he would really want to quit. It just seems kind of out of nowhere and forced. In some way, it is sort of in character for him, as we've seen him slowly grow less confident in his abilities as a ninja ever since Season 2. But that small point just doesn't make up for all the other points. I think Eren has also realized the good the ninja do for people, and they have so many resources and abilities to be able to help others. I think if Eren truly wanted to leave them, it wouldn't be because of wanting to help the people in the Land of Lead. Like, he wouldn't use that as the reason. Because Lloyd asks him, like, what's up, why do you want to leave? And he's like, oh, the people in the Land of Lead need help. But, like, it would make more sense for him to do that with the ninja. It just doesn't make much sense. Like, why would he not want to do that with the ninja? They have the resources, they have the ability, they know this area, they can teach you more about it. Like, what? Anyway, let's take a break from the criticism to talk about some good things in their arc, because I do think there are some good things. I like how Lloyd is trying to be optimistic in For Whom the Bell Tolls. He obviously knows they're facing a very difficult challenge, but as a master, he's trying to psych himself and Eren up to take on the challenge. It's definitely in character for him. I also really love how when Eren expresses that he messes up too much, Lloyd talks about himself as a kid before he became the Green Ninja. It's nice to hear him talk about himself as a kid after so much time has passed, and seeing the character that he is now, having him acknowledge that past version of himself is so good. And I think it really makes sense for him to relate how he had to grow into the ninja he is today with Eren's situation. When the ninja awaken the Arc Dragon of Focus, Lloyd and Eren are able to help the Arc Dragon by controlling it from afar. I think having the two of them being the ones to control it is an absolutely great decision, as it allows for a great moment for each of them. For Lloyd, he learned something about being a teacher and putting trust in his student. He realizes that he has to let Eren take the lead because Eren can lead him to success. He doesn't always have to control everything. He can let Eren take the reins. For Eren, this moment proves to him that he is capable of being a ninja, that Lloyd still trusts him, that he belongs as a hero in this team. I think this whole setup and execution is very great and hits the right marks. But I do have one minor issue with it, and it's the fact that Lloyd seems to learn the lesson that he doesn't need to take the lead all the time, which is good for his character, but it's a lesson that he also already learned in Season 5. I find it funny that he learns this exact lesson in both of the seasons that I'm discussing in this video, 10 years apart. A bit of a coincidence, I guess, but anyway, it does make sense in a way, as Lloyd has changed so much as a character since then, and he has had to learn to take some of the weight off of his shoulders in Dragon's Rising. It's something he's had to learn and unlearn, I guess, but it's still strange. Anyway, after the day is saved, Lloyd expresses that he was trying too hard to control everything during the fight, and that he realized he had to let go of control. And then he says that he realizes that this means also letting go of Eren. I do not think this is a lesson that he should have learned at all. I don't think this has anything to do with letting go of control with the Arc Dragon. He wasn't trying to control Eren more than just trying to reassure him and encourage him. So he didn't say, like, you must be a ninja, you must stay a ninja. He didn't say that. Anyway, Lloyd was hardly trying to force Eren to stay a ninja at all. Maybe if they had given more time between the two of them, showing Lloyd pushing a little harder for him to stay, this would have made more sense. But no, it just seems like a big omission of a lesson he's learned that comes out of nowhere. In this moment, he should have said something like, I'm sorry that I didn't help you find your parents sooner. I never wanted you to feel like I wasn't prioritizing them, and I admit it was a mistake. I should have acknowledged your feelings and helped keep you on the right path. I can write this. He does sort of learn this lesson a few episodes earlier, but there isn't much emphasis on it. And they do both apologize to each other earlier in the season, but I don't know. Once again, there wasn't much emphasis at all on it. I just don't find this moment fits well at all. Eren tells Lloyd that he has realized he is a ninja after the battle. which is a good moment, but just doesn't feel like a satisfying arc because of, well, all of the problems I mentioned before. Anyway, that brings us to the end of Void and Aaron's arcs. The problems with pacing and just the amount of time they give to different aspects and just the uncertainty of every piece of their arcs. I don't know. While there are a few good things in their arcs and in their character development overall, I find both of their arcs to be quite messy this season and ultimately unsatisfying. So we finally made it. Which season had the better moments for our main heroes and better character development for them? Well, I think you could probably already tell. But it's season 5. The only character arc I really have issues with in season 5 is Mia's. While in season 3 part 2, there are a lot of inconsistencies in character arcs such as Void's, Aaron's, Jade, and Mia's. Overall, I just think season 5 is able to give more focus to character development, while season 3 part 2 is just too overbogged with their plot. So at this point, season 5 has the lead, and there's no way season 3 part 2 can bounce back. But I made 5 categories, and we still have one more category, so we're still gonna look at it. This category is season structure / overall enjoyment. We're going to look at how each season is structured in terms of plot and how enjoyable the season is overall. The enjoyment part of it is probably biased because, well, it's enjoyment. Everybody's enjoyment of things are different. But we're still going to look at it and see if we agree. As I rewatched the seasons, these were some of the questions that I used to guide my note-taking for this category. When does the main villain show up? Which season has more jokes? And which season has more moments that hit hard? Specifically emotional moments. I also took into consideration the general writing quality of each season. So let's go over each season. By now, you know the routine. Let's start with season 5. Let's start with the first question. When does the main villain show up? Well, Moro is introduced in the perfect amount of time. He is teased in the opening scene, haunting the night watchman at the museum, but isn't seen until halfway into the episode. He takes advantage of Void's heroism and desire to help others by luring him to the museum and possessing the night watchman. His first scene where he ends up possessing Void is incredibly well done and establishes him as a big threat. This season is very good at keeping high tension and really establishing Moro as a big threat to the ninja. His first scene, fighting the ninja having possessed Void, is incredible. The rest of the season feels like there's so much at stake because of the high tension of the scene and how rocked the ninja are after it. I think Moro is set up so well and he retains such a good presence throughout the entirety of the season. Some of the writing this season is a little cringy, which is unfortunately a staple of the early seasons. However, most of the humor this season is so great, especially in episodes like Sticks and Stones and The Temple on Haunted Hill. One moment that always takes me out is when Moro chases Jay through the maze in grave danger. Also, side note, but how the heck did they ever think Master Wu was going to retire? That aspect of this season is just so funny to me because why would they ever think this ancient man who teaches a magical martial arts style was ever going to retire? Anyway, I think this season is also very great at emotional moments. The emotional moment between Kai and Lloyd in the first episode hits very hard, especially after everything that happened to Lloyd last season. The moment when the Preeminent drags Lloyd into the Cursed Realm was also really emotional and done so well with the editing and the sound and just the character beats and the dialogue. Everything's just so good. And the scene where Cole turns into a ghost. Emo perfection. I find most of the timing of events this season to be pretty good. I think the progression from the ninja getting to Sticks to them finding the scroll is the right length. It gives the perfect amount of time for war drops and character moments while not overstaying its welcome. The only issue I really have with timing this season comes from the second episode. I find the fight that is continuing from the end of episode 1 drags on a little too long. This chase, this fight, everything, it gets a bit old and you just want the story to move on eventually. I think season 5 has the massive advantage of being very streamlined. It's focused on one specific theme, the theme that sparked the idea for this video, ghosts. At this time in the show's history, each season was very streamlined to one major idea. The show was still in its 3 school years at this point. It still had like a clear, set in stone way that they were going to do each season. This season stays focused on fighting ghosts and the main plot of a ninja versus Moro, and therefore it just seems more fluid than season 3 part 2. With the focus streamlined on one theme, they still find the space for meaningful character arcs and stories that intertwine pretty seamlessly. Now, some other random thoughts I wrote down while watching. Misako saying they have a bigger problem when Mia's talking about having to help the ninja and it's just Ronin is so hilarious. She has the best of priorities. I think Sensei Yang is an amazing secondary villain, setting an eerie vibe and really testing the ninja. I don't really care for the Cloud Kingdom stuff, and the whole climb up there is okay, and I really do love whole short arc here, but it's definitely one of the weakest parts of the season. Nimbus is so stupid. He's equal to the coconut stuff to me, which we'll get to soon. Fenwick is annoying. You don't really get why he does what he does because it doesn't really logically fit in with how Cloud Kingdom runs. I'm not gonna go deeper into it right now, but yeah, I just don't like Fenwick. The kiss thing with Ronin and Mia is gross, and it throws me off a lot, and I just want to move on from it right away because I hate it. Wu just trying to flex for no reason with his dumb dragon. I really don't like the scene. I think the dragon was a set, that's probably why they did that, but like, they're just trying to flex all the time. Look at me create this. I just whacked the microphone. Look at me create this dragon. Wow, let's go, Misako. I don't like him and Mistake. I don't like the stuff with him and Misako. Their future reflections are interesting, but they cause so much problems moving forward in the show. Like, oh my gosh, why? I wish they didn't do that sometimes. They are interesting, but not worth it. I love to see Skylar, and my last thought is that the Ghostbusters song parody is really cute. Okay, let's move on to season 3 part 2. Thunderfang is not mentioned or even hinted to at all in the first episode, The Hollow Ones. We don't see him until 4 episodes in Casket of Bones. That's actually crazy. He's the main villain, and he doesn't show up until 4 episodes in. He doesn't have a substantial presence in the season, which just makes every inclusion of him feel unjointed and strange. Kerr from the Forbidden Five is seen in the Hollow Ones, Roz is seen in the first episode, and his presence is really good throughout the entirety of the season. The Forbidden Five are kind of iffy, they're here and there, they're kind of like Thunderfang. I don't think they show up in every episode, I might be wrong, but since they don't really talk, they don't really have a substantial presence. The Spectral Dragonians are more interesting than them. I think the fact that Thunderfang and the Forbidden Five don't show up or aren't mentioned in every episode makes their part in the season less central and more forgettable. Lloyd and most of the team don't even learn about the Forbidden Five and Thunderfang until 6 episodes in Under the Light of a Mechanical Boon. I don't know how to speak. Which is pretty nuts that they don't even know which villain they're going to be having the final battle with until more than halfway through the season. I think a good place to have first introduced Thunderfang and the Forbidden Five in this season would have been in the opening scene of the first episode, The Hollow Ones. The opening scene of the first episode shows Gandalaria and Mysterium before Kerr comes with Spectral Dragonians. The scene drags on for far too long, and I think would have been a much better use of time if this scene showed Thunderfang and or the Forbidden Five, and maybe even gave Thunderfang some character development. Anything really, to show him putting the plan in place. His plan just sort of starts, which feels weird. There's no instigation, there's no inciting incident that kind of kicks it off into place. Let's talk about pacing. The pacing of this season is kind of all over the place. I found the back half of the season to be structured much better and the pace more enjoyable, but the first half of the season is so strangely paced. First of all, they include recaps that started to show up in season 3 part 1 that just really drag the season down. The recap Aaron gives Zora in the Hollow Ones is just way too long and slows the pace of everything. It just doesn't come at the right time, and it's not interesting enough to justify the amount of time it takes on screen. The previously on segment that seasons like Possession had eliminated this problem, and I think it's something that Ninjago really needs to bring back. After this recap scene, in the rest of the episode, the cuts are a bit sudden and everything moves too fast. It's like they went from being really slow in the beginning of the episode to just ramping everything up at the end of the episode. Like, not at the end, throughout the rest of the episode. Some scenes are just also so different from each other that they all end up feeling out of place when put together into a single episode. Ending the episode on the Spectral Dragonians arriving was also a strange choice. The fight should have happened all in one episode, as it feels weird when it's split up between the 2 episodes. They split up moments like this often in this season. Moves like this can work sometimes, but shouldn't happen in almost every episode. For example, I think it works very well with episodes 17 and episode 18, with Roz arriving at the monastery and attacking Mr. Frohike and Geo. The episodes in this season just feel much more disjointed because they are meant to be binged, so they all just bleed into each other and don't really stand out on their own. It's enjoyable on a first watch when you're binging it because you're excited to see all the episodes, but it feels really weird on a rewatch. Another strangely paced plot I felt was Aaron and Sora splitting up from Roz. I liked most of their stuff together, but in the 4th episode, Sora and Aaron find out Roz's real plan and escape from him in the underworld. I really like this moment, but I feel like that should have at least happened in episode 5, as we don't really get a lot of time with Aaron and Sora and Roz's dynamic, and I feel like if it had one more episode and then they had this moment, it would have given it more focus, more depth. It would have been just better, I think. I also found When Doves Cry to be a pretty slow episode, but it picks up significantly when it arrives at Roz fighting Geo and Mr. Frohike at the monastery. Also, I know the Rapkin stuff is kind of wasting time, but I love him, so I don't care. In terms of writing, I think most of the emotional moments do hit very hard, like Eagle's death, which has brought me to tears, and the fight between Jay and Nia and Vault of Focus. I do find the repeating of war and lines that we've heard before to be really annoying. I'm really starting to notice it. I didn't notice it as much in season 1, season 2, but now I'm really starting to notice it. It's becoming a really big problem in Dragons Rising that I especially noticed in episodes like the Hollow Ones and Human Resources. I do think a really funny line that could kind of be tied to this whole repetitive war drop thing is when Jay says, "Realm reassignment, we know this," which kind of seems like a meta line directed at these war drops that just keep going on and on and on and keep happening. I think it's so hilarious. I think when the writers have one idea that they've honed in on and spent a lot of time developing, it's not as noticeable. For example, this problem is pretty much unnoticeable in The Land of Lee. That episode is very well written and doesn't feel quite as strange and annoying as these other ones when it comes to the dialogue. As the episode focuses solely on Lee and this huge land that he's created, this extreme lie that he's spun, there's just less lore drops and blatant exposition dialogue, and it ends up being a really good episode and shows that the writers are good writers. They just need to cut out this that's here. I hope they can bring that writing to the next season with a more focused storyline. I think the humor in this season is really good. I think Dragons Rising's humor in general is really great, and I really enjoy it. The Land of Lee is full of absolutely hilarious moments. And my favorite joke in this season is when Jay calls Lloyd neurotic. It takes me out every time. Despite its flaws, I still really enjoy the season. Like, I don't have a horrible time watching it at all, despite all the complaining I did in this video. I don't think I enjoy it quite as much as season 5, but there's still a lot I love about it. So let's go over a few other random thoughts I wrote down while watching the season. I'm starting to notice that Dragons Rising really loves to open episodes with side characters for some reason. They open the Hollow Ones with Candelaria, and they open When Doves Cry with Iroquois and Xanth. I hope we actually find out who the Administrator is. I like that they set up the mystery, but I wish some of the mysteries they've set up could have been solved in the season. I mean, they did solve the Screaming Earth stuff, but that was just one thing. There should be more moving along at this point. The Administrator being involved in the season also would have been really cool. Like, imagine if the Administrator was involved with Lee, and that's why they didn't do anything about him mind controlling a few people. Like, that could have been so cool. Like, I like that. I hope the Administrator is someone really cool, please. I like all the stuff with the administration, and I think Lee is an incredible secondary antagonist and one of my favorites of all of Ninjago. I also thought it was really interesting how Jay mentioned spirit possession, kind of like a nod to the first Ghost season that Ninjago ever did. I thought the stuff in the underworld was pretty cool. There's creepy parts to it which give it a cool, spooky vibe similar to Possession, but it does lean a bit more on the goofy side that the underworld had in the first few seasons, which was nostalgic, but also, like, I wish they could have gone a bit more intense. There are intense moments, especially with the Casket of Bones, but anyway. I don't understand why Mr. Frohike sent them away when they were literally training on the training course. Like, isn't that what it's for? I guess just to move the plot along with the Screaming Earth, I guess. I really do not like the whole Coconut Candelaria thing. They did Candelaria so dirty this season. I really liked her in season 2, but I did not enjoy her in season 3. She annoyed me so much. And the coconut, I wanted to hit my head against the wall every time the look at it so bad. I don't like how they gave Nia such useless plot, like with the coconut and the Cyclops. She deserves so much better. She deserved better in the season. Especially when there was so much they could have done with her and Jay while she was split up from the others. They could have dived so deep into the ink. Ugh, I wish. The tease of a mysterious person following Nia when she's looking for the Arc Dragon is not really worth it at all. Like, it doesn't pay off in a cool way. They hype it up and it doesn't pay off. Also, one last thought. Low-key, I don't really care for Eric Ort. It kind of bores me. Anyway, that wraps up Season 3 Part 2 for this category. While there is a lot I enjoy about this season, I realized rewatching both of these seasons back to back that I enjoy watching Season 5 just a bit more. It has a more fluid structure, and its focused storyline outweighs the good parts of Season 3 Part 2. So once again, Season 5 is gonna take the point. So we've looked at both seasons pretty thoroughly, and Season 5 has been declared the winner of the Battle of the Ghost seasons. Season 5 came out on top with a whopping 4 points to Season 3 Part 2's 1 point. For Season 3 Part 2. In this first battle season, Season 5 blew Season 3 Part 2 out of the water. I think both seasons are enjoyable, but I ultimately find Season 5 to be great and Season 3 Part 2 to be pretty good. I think Season 5 coming out on top was the only way this battle could end. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and happy Halloween, everyone! I don't know why I did it like that. Please subscribe, leave a comment below, let me know which season you enjoy more, which one you think is better objectively, and let me know if I should make this type of video series, more Battle of the Seasons. Should I explore the tournament seasons next, maybe? Let me know. Happy Halloween! Bye!